Hey everybody, this is Mike Bono from the North Andover Athletic Association, and you are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the show that brings you inside the lines of North Andover High School athletics. Hey Al, welcome back from vacation. We missed you last week. Where'd you go?
I went to Texas. We caught a couple of Sox games in Houston. We did Galveston, and we did San Antonio for a couple of days.
Oh, nice. Nice. Sox game in Houston.
Sox game in Houston. Great field. Great place to watch a game.
Awesome. Well, Eric did a great job filling in for you last week when we talked to Bill
heard.
Gordon from Gordon PT. He did a great podcast on just the importance of stretching and strengthening and all good stuff. So, but one other thing we want to do with these podcasts is we want to get some college coaches from various sports to join the podcast and talk about the college recruiting process. And our guest this week is Matt Noone, who's the head baseball coach at Babson College. I saw Coach Noone at the Gavoni Cup, a.k.a. Babson Baseball Alumni Tournament last week, and asked if he could join the podcast. He graciously accepted. Coach, welcome to the Nightly News Podcast. How'd your team hit him last week at the tournament?
Let's just say I spend more time on the baseball field than they do on my short game. So I was a non-factor in the tournament leaderboard. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, I fared much, much better in the raffle after the tournament than I did golfing. The golf game decided to stay home, but I did score Sox-Yankees tickets in September and a wingman golf speaker that can go in my golf bag. So next...
Oh, good for you. That's a score.
Yeah. Next Babson Baseball Alumni Tournament, I'm going to be like Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack. We're going to be dancing around the course. So you just completed your 20th year as head coach at Babson. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a good ride. Seems like I just started. And I guess when you have that feeling, that means you're surrounded by good people and good young kids that keep you energized. So it's been a good ride, but it's been really a dream come true.
Well, the program's lucky to have you. I mean, it's and not only has it been 20 years, but it's been 20 successful years. You have a 448 wins and 294 losses. You've been to the NCAA Division III tournament 5 times, and in 2019, you led the team to the College World Series. So that's all great stuff. You should be proud of where you've brought the program, especially since I was there back in the early 90s when it was just starting to kind of get going. So,
I appreciate it, but it's, guys like you who built the program and that we're just fortunate to reap the benefits of all that the school has to offer and, take it maybe to a new level, but I never like to say that because I think guys have always been really good at Babson. They worked hard to represent the school. So I'm just a pretty good stakeholder right now, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Great. And not many people might know this, but in addition to being the Babson baseball coach, you're also the lefty batting practice coach for the Red Sox during their home games. So you have the week off because they're away this week. Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so I get a little break from some late nights with that, and then so I get the afternoon off here today, which is nice before we get ready for the start of the school year and things ramp it up.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. I know I'm bringing my son down to college on Thursday, so it's all happening fast. Summer went by really quickly.
I know.
Speaking of kids, your son Tim is going to be a senior at Babson. Very good pitcher. He's playing in the College Futures League this summer. I saw he was on the Futures Team of the Month in July. Looks like he had a great summer.
Yeah, he was one of many in our program who went off and played summer ball and had a good experience. I think there's a lot of good leagues out there that give kids an opportunity to keep playing in the summers and improve. And, he fortunately was in a good situation on a good team and he had a good summer. But he really was just one of a whole bunch of guys that represented Babson really well around the country in summer league. So I'm obviously very proud of him and what he's accomplished, but our whole team and what they do in the summers and how hard they work, to get better personally, but to represent Babson. So it's been a good summer for everyone.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, obviously the results show and how the team has been doing. So that's great. So we are in North Andover, which seems to be a hotbed for baseball players, especially going on to college and even the pro level. You think of Stephen Hager, he went to Central, but from North Andover, now in the Twins organization. Sebastian Keene, drafted by the Red Sox and then the Yankees this year. And now we have, Trevor Crosby going to U Lowell. We have, Brett Dunham and a couple other guys at Northeastern, which is where Sebastian went, where you were the pitching coach, I think, for like 11 years.
I
Is
was
it?
pitching coach
Yeah.
for 11 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you're in a hotbed of baseball. So, you could rattle off year by year how many good kids come out of your area.
Yeah.
It's passionate baseball people up there. They work hard. There's a lot of good coaches at the different schools and the travel programs. So, good tradition of American Legion baseball and Senior Babe Ruth. So it doesn't surprise me when you start rattling off names.
Yeah. And excuse me. And so that's why we wanted to have you on, is because, like I said, it is a hotbed. So we just wanted to give kids and parents sort of a perspective on the college recruiting process when it comes to baseball specifically. And so, obviously you've been able to recruit some great baseball talent based off of your results. And Babson's not an easy school to get into, a lot harder than when I applied, I think. I'm not sure I get in there now. But talk to us about your general recruiting strategy. Like, how have you been so successful?
I think it's always a loaded question when you ask for your specific strategy, because I think the game is constantly evolving. When I first started at Babson, there was, one or two tournaments that you would go to and, excuse me, try to find a couple kids out of there that could help you. And, one of the big tournaments was Labor Day weekend of the kid's senior year, and now everything's accelerated. There's so many more tournaments, there's showcases. So it's constantly evolving, but the one constant that I think is key to it is we try to find kids that love baseball and that are really passionate about getting better, and they're passionate about their sport, and that it's really important to them. And I think when you find kids that the sport is really important to them, that they want to get better, that they love it, then all the other pieces fall into place. So I think the one constant is that. And then I think what's constantly evolving and constantly what I have to stay on top of is, what are the good players doing in the summer? How are they developing? And, are you able to find them and articulate, the message that Babson provides to them and, get them interested in the school? I think it's harder now because there's more coaches out there recruiting. There are more schools that value baseball than ever before. So we have to stay on top of it. But I do think we have a really good situation at a place like Babson because it's a top destination school. And we're a place that can offer top flight academics as a business school, and then we can offer top flight baseball. So there's a good segment of the population that wants to leverage their baseball playing ability into a good college experience. And I think we provide a nice option for a lot of kids. But as I tell everybody, as soon as you think you've got recruiting figured out, things are going to pass you by. So I, work hard to try to keep up with what's going on out there, and always just fall back on try to find kids that love baseball.
Coach, what's the one bit of bad advice you hear? I think there's a lot of parents that give advice to their kids, and a lot of maybe other parents or relatives that give advice to parents. What's the one thing you hear that just doesn't fly for you?
Yeah, it's again another hard question, but I do think like the one constant is you have to get away from the idea that college coaches like me like scour the country and find the needle in the haystack and he becomes like the great success story. Most of the recruiting starts with a player showing interest in us. It can be as simple as an email with a video or just a simple generic, reach out to us. And then we try to follow up on those, because a good starting point for us is, dealing with kids who have first reached out to us. So we know there's some initial interest somehow. And then we try to follow up from there. So if I were to give parents, the one piece of advice I tell everybody is recruit the school first. Now you might, have to work at that part of it. If I'm, a parent and I love Stanford for my son and, he's a B- student and, an undersized right-handed pitcher, and I, try to recruit Stanford, you might not get any answers back. So you might have to expand it, but it really starts with you investigating what you want in a school, investigating what type of programs are out there, and then start the conversation with them, because if you sit back and wait for people to find you, I think it's, you play in a lot of game of chance. I would have to be at the right park. I can go out to a 3-field complex where there's a tournament. If I know someone has reached out to me and is playing on field 2, I make it an effort to go see them. So I think you have to do your homework that way first.
That's interesting. Yeah, thank you.
And when does that start, Coach? Like, and I don't know if you like freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. Like when should players reach out?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because there's not a consistent answer for it. Like Power 5 schools are, finding kids younger and younger. And academic schools need kind of junior year transcripts complete before we can really decide if the kid's in our wheelhouse academically. So when I talk, to folks about recruiting, I really am speaking for Babson and Babson only.
Yeah.
For a school like mine in a spring sport, I'd like to start getting contacted just prior to the high school season, and then throughout your high school season as the first contact, and then follow up with your summer schedule and maybe your high school stats, and then by June, I've got a list of people who've contacted me and their grades are complete. So it's kind of that second semester junior year. Another school may tell you, they have to start a little bit earlier than that, for X, Y, and Z reason. But given our situation just academically, like we can't really see if the kid's a good fit for us from an academic standpoint until his junior year is complete. So it's kind of that second semester junior year. The one thing we get bombarded right now with kids who are antsy that are just finished their freshman year going into their sophomore year. And that's really wasting your time and my time, because a sophomore hasn't taken enough math. He hasn't had enough body of work in his grades. We don't know what his transcript's going to look like. So what I tell those kids who are antsy is just work on getting really good grades, keep up the schoolwork, and then focus on getting stronger and becoming a better baseball player, and then worry about reaching out to the schools.
Coach, I think there's a better understanding about what I'm going to ask you about next than maybe 10 years ago, but what role does the social media stuff play? I know in the beginning of social media, kids were surprised that coaches or schools would look at what they post. How much does that play into the kids that you recruit, and how much?
I'm sorry, you broke up on that question, and I missed most of it.
Sorry, just asking about social media. How much do you look at a prospective player's student's social media, and how does that affect your decision on whether to accept them?
Well, that's another kind of school by school question. I know for us, a lot of kids now are using, a Twitter platform or an Instagram to provide highlights of their performances. Certainly look at those. There are rules about how we can interact on social media. So I try to stay away from any interaction on it, but I do look at a kid's video if he sends it to me that way. I prefer, and again, maybe I'm old school and every coach is different, but I prefer kind of direct email contact with a simple introduction and a simple, maybe video and a simple transcript where it's all bundled in a nice little email and we can keep track of it that way. But social media does, infiltrate what we do in terms of like we see the highlights, or the coach tweets out, the game highlights. We certainly look at those. We certainly see them. And then I think kids are conditioned better now, but at the advent of social media, we did look at social media profiles to make sure there were no red flags in there, but I think kids are savvy to that now. And don't do that. But obviously you want to make sure the kids, don't do something that they think is funny in the moment that can be offensive, that could come back and haunt them.
The timing of baseball recruiting is interesting because you like senior year, it's kind of like everything's done, right? You've pretty much tried to figure out where you're going to go to school. So it's like that junior year of high school, and then you're looking for them to, you're out there during the summer of they're going from junior to senior year.
Exactly.
Trying to figure out who's the right
fit.
fit.
So our sweet spot in most of the academic schools, their sweet spots are high school junior year, summer. we're making decisions now on kids who just finished their junior summer going into their senior year. And it's really tricky because, they're not going to suit up for us for, 20 months. And we have to decide if they're a good fit for us. So I think it does lend itself to a little bit of mistakes that way. But the reality is, the colleges want early decision applicants. The Division I schools are going for earlier and earlier commits. And we've just kind of fallen into the sequencing of it. And our timeline is now. So it's tricky, you think back 20 years ago, a kid could blossom and have a great senior year and then all of a sudden get recruited out of that. But the unfortunate thing for, the level of baseball that we're at and the academic situations that we have, the recruiting is done that junior year.
Yeah. I know you're well known in baseball circles, and you actually played Division I baseball at Princeton, and which it was probably more than 20 years ago, but so can you talk about some of the people Division I coaches, like the difference between recruiting for Division III versus Division I and Division II? I don't know, some of them, like the time frames, the timelines, the rules, things you can say.
Yeah. There's subtle differences in terms of like the rules and regulations but it's kind of minutia with contact and what have you. But when you look at baseball, Division I, II, and III, the differences really lie in the quality of the program, not so much on the label, because there's Division I Vanderbilt and Ole Miss, but there's also Division I, Holy Cross and, Patriot League schools or New England schools like that. There's so the timelines at those places are all different. I think the Power Five, they can afford to gamble on early commits, freshmen, sophomores, that are just those child prodigies. And we've got a few in this area. But I think everybody else, Division I, II, or III, if you're not at that Power Five level, you're still kind of figuring things out sophomore, junior year on those guys. And I also think too, like I said before, there's no set answer for any of them. And I think each year is different and each player is different and each coach does things slightly different. And I think it's dangerous to try to just say, oh, this is how they do it in D1, this is how they do it in D3, because within those schools are different. They operate differently at Division I with scholarship allotments and admission standards. Division III operates with, academic issues. Some schools are more conducive to transfers. So it's really all over the place. And to try to fit it in a neat little box, I think can be dangerous.
Yeah, sure. That's fair.
Coach, if I was an incoming player for your program, how many hours a week, say in the fall semester, or the winter semester, and then obviously this spring when the games get going, how many hours a week would I be, committed to? Like what's it take for an athlete? How much are they doing regarding baseball?
Yeah, so that's a good question too. The Division I's have strict hourly limits per week, and then Division III has number of practices. So Division III, we're allowed 16 practices over 5 weeks in the fall. So we can kind of go as many hours as we want a given day, but given daylight and whatnot, you're relegated to a couple hours a day. And I think if you're in a good program with good coaches, they're not doing anything more than 2 hours a day. If you can't coach your team in the goals that you want in 2 hours, I think you're probably not playing for a great coach. And most coaches I know, try to get things done in 2 hours. If you have a Saturday in a squad, you might go a little more. But, you're talking a couple hours a day, 6 days a week for the most part. And then you can factor in some weight training in season, out of season. But again, it's different. Division I, they have to log the hours. Division III, we're counting days.
And I know you have a prospect camp coming up on September 3rd at Babson. If you want to talk about that, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I think prospect camps. I can talk in general and specifically. So, I get asked the question a lot, and we started to add a prospect camp because a lot of kids who are really interested in Babson want an opportunity to play in front of us. So we do a 1-day, 3-hour practice, and obviously we're going to get good attendance because people want to come to Babson. You know, we can't recruit everybody, we can't take everybody. So my goal is that if you come to our prospect camp and you end up not enrolling at Babson, you've had a good practice where you're going to learn how we do it. You're going to see how a coaching staff operates, and you're going to get put through the paces and maybe look around and see, all right, where do you need to improve your game? So for me, not only is it a chance for us to share what we do with people that may help you go somewhere else if we don't take you, but it's a chance for you to work out in front of us. And we take a few kids out of that camp the last couple times we've offered it where we didn't know much about them. They reached out to us and said, all right, come to the camp and we'll see where it goes. You know, it's a really tricky conversation with people because, you know, you can come to the camp and it's relatively inexpensive, but it costs money, and it could be the best money you've ever spent, you know, and then at the same time you could come to the camp, not play well, and we find somebody better than you, and you could look at it as, you know, you wasted your time and your money. But I do think, you know, we try to be thorough in our evaluation. We try to give you a really good workout that when you leave, at least you understand who we are, what we're all about, and then you've got a good chance. You know, it's kind of the way of recruiting now, where colleges offer these prospect camps. And I think it's really, really hard for parents to decide because there's high-end, expensive ones that are private companies that bring in coaches to watch your son, you know, but there's a lot of participants, you know, might be 200 players at a camp. Can you get lost in the crowd there? And then, you know, you could go broke going to every camp that you get invited for. So a little bit of what I said before, where you kind of recruit the school, you know, narrow down your list to a couple places that are at the top of your list and see if it's within your budget to get in front of them, because getting on the field, shaking a coach's hand, looking them in the eye and showing what you can do is probably a really effective way of letting them learn who you are.
That's great advice.
Coach, what does your staff look like? Like how many coaches, assistants you have, trainers and such?
Yeah, we're really blessed at a place like Babson. So, you know, when I first started, I was the first full-time coach the school ever had. I think that shows a level of commitment to it. And since I've been there, we've added a full-time assistant coach. His name's Mike Napolitano, a young guy that's like really hustling and wants to be a head coach. So he's working really hard at it. I'm really lucky. I have a real close friend and confidant who serves as, you know, technically a volunteer, but he's another real full-time person, and that's Bruce Ginsburg. He's, you know, been a successful businessman and then was able to kind of step away from that, and then he helps me out. So, you know, we've got basically 3 full-time people, and then the school does an amazing job. There's a full-time strength coach at the school who's, you know, a proven winner and just, you know, fantastic at what he does. And I consider him, you know, full-time with me. So we have a really good staff. And then you add in, you know, our sports medicine folks, you know, who, you know, provide the daily, you know, service to the kids to make sure that they're healthy and safe and continually growing. So we're in a really good situation. And I think more and more schools are seeing the value in that, and providing, you know, trainers and support staff to help the players develop and grow. Because ultimately, if you're a parent and you send your kid off to school, you want him to achieve excellence. You want him to be the best version of himself that he can be. And if baseball is part of it, you know, we want our kids to be the best baseball players they can possibly be. And I think we have a situation that allows us to do that with our guys.
Great. And can you just touch on, you alluded to this earlier, but just the type of person that you're looking for? Obviously, you talked about the academics and the importance of that, but how does character, you know, we often hear people talk about, like, it's important to do extracurriculars, to play multiple sports. How much do those things play into your decision?
Yeah, and every kid's profile is different. And, you know, just as a coach, I never want to do something at practice just for the sake of doing it. So I would never encourage a high school kid to join a club just to do it, to to boost his resume. Be the best at who you are and what you love to do. So when we're recruiting guys, we want guys that love baseball, who are smart and want to study business. And we really kind of take them in those orders. Like, we don't want smart kids who want baseball who just happen to play baseball. We want baseball to be really important to them. But then they also recognize they get this amazing opportunity at a school like Babson. So, you know, if your passion for baseball and your, you know, desire to be a competitive athlete, you know, involves playing football or hockey or soccer or basketball, we love that. You know, we love a multi-sport guy. But if you, you know, want to do something else in the fall, you want to, you know, take advantage of something else the school has to offer, I'm all for that. So I'm just looking for well-rounded kids that want to achieve excellence, and what they do in and around the baseball is up to them. But I just want them to be really good at it. I'm a big believer that successful people, you know, work hard at everything that they do. They desire to achieve excellence at whatever they do. So, you know, if they're also a soccer goalie, like, they're really good at it because they care about it and they want to be good at it. But at the same time, if they're joining the, you know, the drama club and they want to be a good actor. So I like guys that that are wired to be great at everything that they try to do. And I don't try to just say, oh, we need multi-sport guys, or we need this, we need that. I just want to identify kids that love baseball and want to be great at everything. So they're good in school, you know, they don't have any blemishes on their discipline record, you know, and that they, you know, their families are really proud of them.
Yeah, well, that's great. It's great advice. And then any advice to parents who have kids playing at the youth level? You know, obviously AAU baseball has sort of taken off. Kids are playing all year round, it seems like. Even in the wintertime, they're in a gym or a baseball complex, throwing, hitting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, you know, you worry about injuries. It seems like a lot of kids get Tommy John surgery, just throwing the ball. But any advice that you would give to those parents?
Yeah, my number one advice to parents is to be where your feet are. We talk about it all the time with our players. So when I say that to our players, you know, when you step, you know, the Gavoni field, you come down the parking lot a little bit and you step onto the field, like, you're on the field, be where your feet are. You're not worrying about school and your other problems. When you're in the batter's box, you're not worrying about what you did on defense. Be where your feet are in the batter's box. When you're on the mound and you're pitching, worry about pitching. You can't worry about the umpire. You know, and even me as the coach, when I'm coaching the team, I can't worry about what the umpire does. So that mindset of, like, be where your feet are. So as a youth player, I really encourage parents to just enjoy the moment. So when they're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, don't worry about playing college baseball. Just worry about being really good on your summer team or being a really good high school player, because if you be where your feet are, then the other things will take care of themselves. And I know countless examples of parents who had this needless anxiety about, you know, freshman year in high school, sophomore year in high school. They're worrying about showcases and different, you know, opportunities for college, and they didn't enjoy their college experience, their high school experience. You know, the high school and youth baseball should be some of the best memories that they have. Relish those, enjoy those, be where your feet are, be a great teammate there. Because if you're good enough to play college, it will sort itself out. But if you're anxiously worrying about college and you let it ruin your high school experience, I think you've cheated your kid.
That's amazing advice,
Yeah,
Coach.
that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, and hopefully people hear that.
Yeah, and
So,
it's a lot easier said than done. Believe me. You
of
know,
course.
I've had kids go through it, and your stomach turns with every at bat. You worry about who's watching and everything else.
Yeah.
But if you can take a step back and really let your son enjoy, you know, playing at the level he's at, I think you have a better chance of achieving those long-term goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, I want to say thank you. This has been this is our first college coach podcast.
Uh-huh.
So this has been amazing.
So you've got a low bar then. Huh? Now, I would do it's funny. I said it before, I was really fortunate. I inherited a great situation at Babson, and, I feel, really lucky to be there, but I also feel a debt of gratitude to those guys who didn't have as much as, my teams have now in terms of like coaching and facilities, that they've built like a winning tradition. And I just kind of came in and rode the wave of it. So anytime you guys call and ask me for something, I answer the bell, because you guys have done so much for me. And, we really, view it as kind of like a baseball family. And, I'm lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of my best friends are former teammates. So it definitely is a family. And I just
something special.
Yeah. And I can't end this without mentioning Coach G, Coach Gavoni, who Gavoni Field is named after. It's probably one of the best, or if not the best, college baseball field in this area. When I started, it was like a recreation field. And by the end of my 4 years, it was like an amazing showcase field. And him and his wife, Terry.
Yeah, all to his hard work. I mean, I tell people, like, he literally and figuratively built that field. Like, he dug the warning track by hand. He rallied the alums to donate money. I mean, he, in so many different levels, he's responsible for it. So, he was part of the, the great tradition of it. And it's awesome that they honored him with the name on the field. And I think anyone that has touched him at any level knows what a special guy he was. And I think we're lucky to have had him coach us and be a part of us. And, the fact that he's still kicking around and making his mark on the program is pretty unique.
Yeah. Just a quick story. I lived relatively close by, and one summer I went down to the field when he was working on it, and it was so windy out. He was spray painting the backstop silver. And when I walked up to him, he turned around. He looked like the Tin Man from
Yeah,
for the Wizard of Oz.
They've got pictures of him doing that that are in the archives.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. He literally and figuratively built the program, and I'm blessed to have taken over and had him as my assistant coach for my first probably 17 years there. So we're all lucky to have had him around.
Well, Coach, thanks again. Best of luck with the fall season. The prospect camp, September 3rd. If anybody's interested, you can go to the Babson baseball website and probably register there. And good luck, and we'll be following you in the spring.
Awesome, thanks. Well,
right.
I was glad to connect with you at the golf tournament, and glad to chat with you guys tonight.
Thanks again, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Al, thank you. And everybody, thank you for listening. Till next time, thank you for listening to the North Andover Athletic Association's nightly news podcast, and we will chat with you next time.